All right, everybody. So the Trump arraignment has been, pretty much at the top of the news cycle, like new updates coming out and staying at the top of the news cycle for over a week now. And while it doesn't really look like all that much that's really worth talking about is going to come out of it because they're just trying to find anything that could stick to him, it really doesn't seem like they're really going to get him on this, you know what I mean? It's still worth kind of following. And one of the best things that comes out of all of this, really, is how evident the right is willing to make their hypocrisy to defend Trump. That has possibly been one of the best things to come out of this. And of course, the best part is, of course, the supposed centrists, the supposed moderates, who still, on every issue, defend Trump and side with the right for some reason, but they're definitely moderates. They are also doing the same thing and trying to defend Trump in some of the most, openly dishonest and, evidently, team politics ways possible. And one, example of that I brought up earlier was, of course, Tim Pool. Now, recently, another streamer by the name of Destiny, a good friend of the stream, as all of you know, did a debate with Tim Pool about this very topic in person. I believe this was, really recent, right? 9 days ago? Yeah, this is pretty recent. And I haven't seen it yet. I want to react to it. Destiny does tend to, kind of tear Tim Pool a new one whenever they debate, so I imagine this is going to go pretty well for him, as it usually does when it comes to these conservative debates. So, yeah, I'm excited to see this. I'm hyped. Let's get right into it. Fuck it. Expand the video. There we go. There he is. Dim Tool.
Big breaking news story, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking: Manhattan grand jury votes to indict Donald Trump. Trump will be the first former president to be indicted. The grand jury's vote regards an alleged settlement.
So, I spawned into my world and instantly lost everything.
Made with adult film actress Stormy Daniels during the former president's 2016 campaign. According to 5 people with knowledge of the matter per the New York Times, Trump and Daniels allegedly had a sexual encounter in 2006, according to the claim. Trump is the first former president to face criminal charges after office. While the specific charges are currently unknown, an indictment is expected to be announced as Trump will be asked to surrender and face arraignment. A lawyer for the former president confirmed his indictment shortly after the initial announcement, the AP reported. In a March 18th Truth Social post, Trump said he would be arrested on the 21st and called for people to protest and take our nation back. Okay, so basically after that, they postponed the indictment, things get delayed. Then a bunch of people who are, conservative but not pro-Trump started saying Trump's grifting, he's lying, it's not going to happen. Then today they announced, I think it was today they announced the grand jury was going to be suspended for a month. And then all of a sudden, just a couple hours ago, they announced they voted to indict Donald Trump. So obviously, my opinion on this, as we've talked about it before, is this is silly and stupid. But while we have you, man, what do you think?
If he committed a crime, I think he should have the book thrown at him. I think generally this is a misdemeanor crime. Usually there's a statute of limitations. But if records were...
So the big difference here, I believe, is that the reason why this isn't just a misdemeanor and the reason why what Trump did is supposed to be a big deal felony is because he did what he did in an effort to commit another crime or to conceal another crime. And so that's what makes it a felony, is that you did an illegal thing that's just a misdemeanor to help you do a more illegal or another illegal thing. And so that makes it worse, I guess. That's my understanding of what kind of magnifies this as an issue.
Falsified in an attempt to cover up another crime, then the statute of limitations is extended. But I don't think any of us have seen the indictment yet. So I wait until they unseal the indictment to see how silly or stupid I think it is. But hey, if he broke the law, I think he should have the book thrown at him. Even ex-presidents, I don't believe, are above the law. So
I absolutely agree. I'd like to see more presidents get arrested and charged.
Oh, man, make me nervous, you guys. It's the first time in history a president's ever been indicted.
No, I agree. I don't care if they break the law, then they should be charged.
I love that. It's always these people who are because a lot of the conservatives that have to pretend like they're not conservatives are like, oh yeah, I want to see all of the politicians indicted. I want to see all the politicians arrested. They're all crooked. I hate all of them. But don't you think it's really weird that they're just going after Trump? It's so clearly just political assassination. Well, why not go after these other people? Yeah, it's very clear that Trump's actually done this, and everyone basically knows that he did it. It's like an open secret, or not even an open secret, just open. But, you know, like, it really seems like it's political targeted assassination to go after Trump. You know, I think they should go after the other guys. This is a witch hunt. But then they go on to say, but they're not against our politicians getting arrested. It's just that this is unfair. This is just targeting Trump unfairly, I guess.
Charged. My issue, I suppose, is it seems overtly political. I mean,
there you go.
How can we say that without seeing the indictment?
That's a fair point.
But you just said that.
I said it seems overtly political. It's fair to say we don't know for sure, but it seems that way, especially considering the dude campaigned on investigating Trump. They spent years, and this was the best they could come up with, that Cohen paid Stormy Daniels to not write a book or give an interview or whatever about banging Trump, and that Trump tried claiming it was legal fees, despite the fact that a letter was put out 2018 where Cohen's lawyer said Cohen paid for it out of pocket, was never reimbursed. So I mean, like, that feels kind of like exculpatory evidence outright.
Oh, there was also talks between Trump and Cohen that were logged, where they talk about wanting to scam Stormy Daniels. Like, the idea was that they were going to wait until after the election. They were going to try to push having to pay her till after the election, and then never pay her. Because the idea was specifically just to keep the story from hurting Trump's chances of winning, which is going to be one of the most core pieces of evidence that Trump did this all in an effort to conceal another crime, is the fact that he specifically, like, did this. Like, there's evidence that he was specifically doing this to help his chances in the election. He's admitted to it in like audio, or not audio, text form in audio with Cohen.
Which makes this seem political.
So do you think that the payments to him that were recorded in the book, do you think that's all fake, or?
So I don't know. Well, definitely, I'm interested in seeing what the reason.
I just don't understand why, because like the thing that drives me the craziest, it happens to the Andrew Tate stuff too, where things will come out and people immediately say this is political, it's partisan. It's like, well, why not just wait till the indictments come out and then we can actually see when the indictments come out? It might be that there's a lot of stuff in there. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fair, and it might be, wow, this is BS. Like, it's obviously
because
political.
Bragg campaigned on doing this.
Sure, but I mean, like, people can campaign on all sorts of things, right? Juliana campaigned on cleaning up New York. The guy that, well,
that literally makes it political.
You guys have no idea how happy it makes me that we're back in the you're making things political era of politics, because that really is peak, like, anti-SJW skeptic era, like, talking points. And this was like what I was talking about for so long, is like this is coming back. Like, this is happening. We're going back into an age of this being the talking points that dominate the internet. And it's just, yes, an indictment of a president. They're making it political. Are you fucking serious? We're really at the, like, political is when I disagree with something stage again. We're really back in the 2016 talking points.
If you campaign on, like, enforcing laws, like, is that a political
No, he
statement?
campaigned on investigating Trump.
Maybe he thought Trump broke some laws.
But it's, it's like...
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a fair thing to campaign on.
Show me the man, I'll show you the law that he broke, right?
Well, we're about to see that shown once the indictments are unsealed, huh?
So here's what I think with the potential of this case.
Uh-huh.
You have a lawyer? I imagine you've gone through legal stuff, right?
Not like a dedicated one, but I've have a couple depending on what I'm going through, yeah.
Do you go through their itemized invoices? You might. I mean, I don't know if you do or not.
I've never made a single payment of over $10,000 to a lawyer. So usually they send me the itemized thing, and they bill by every 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. Yeah.
These bills that Trump's paying are over hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I think for Cohen, wasn't it like $330,000 or something at the end of the day? Yeah,
something like that. Uh-huh. And so I really doubt Trump was handed this invoice, looked at it and said, no, we can't say we paid Stormy. That's illegal. Let's falsify this record. He probably got a legal bill and was like, just pay him. I don't know, whatever. Right?
Didn't Cohen claim that he and Trump had personal conversations about this particular issue?
Yes, after the fact. But in 2018, Cohen's lawyer claimed Cohen paid for it personally without instruction from Trump and was never reimbursed for it.
Sure. Do you think has Cohen claimed otherwise, though?
After the fact, yes, Cohen has claimed otherwise.
So, and those claims were under oath, correct?
Then he should be charged with perjury if that's the case.
But the statements by his boss, were those statements under oath?
His boss?
Yeah, or the other lawyer. Yeah, the other lawyer. Were those under oath?
I don't know who the letter was filed with.
Something that Rosenstein said that I think was really important when he was asked for questioning. This was like...
So, I'm going to interject here very quickly to say a little bit of commentary about what I've noticed Tim Pool does specifically in his rhetoric, or like the way that he debates. What I've noticed, and I do think it's important to analyze the way that dishonest right-wing figures do their rhetoric. What I've noticed about Tim Pool is that he heavily relies on the fact that he spends all day covering random stories about the left doing bad things. Whether it be true or not, if he can twist it into the left is responsible for a bad thing happening, he just spends all day covering these stories. And he's got them all, like all the recent ones, ready and on hand. And even if he's lying and he doesn't actually know a lot about what's going on, or what he's saying isn't representative of, information that is telling you about what is going on in that issue, he still is very good at pushing a narrative because his job is to just talk about this shit all day. So he has a massive repertoire of talking points and anecdotal examples that might not even say what he's saying they are in the moment, that he will blindside you with on the spot. And that is why I think Destiny is actually one of the best people to debate Tim Pool, because for all the, and I've got many reasons to disagree with Destiny on stuff and not like him or whatever, but for all the, issues I have with Destiny, one of the things that he does very well is like being obsessively caught up on what's going on in mainstream politics, especially like in the electoral space. And so he is probably one of the most equipped public figures that is a like streamer debate bro type to debate Tim Pool. He's generally like the one who's going to know the most about this like really dry, what is Trump in legal trouble for right now? What's the current scandal in the news cycle? He's going to know about a lot of that typically.
Like 3 or 4 years ago, I think, is he would get very irritated when he was brought before Congress and claims of the media. I think Jim Jordan did this to him. The claims from the media would be brought before him, and they'd say, well, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And he says, well, I don't think that's true. And he's like, do you think they're lying? And something Rosenstein said was, well, if you think they're lying, bring them and have them testify under oath. So I think it's important when we look at people's statements. People will say a lot of things. We saw this with Giuliani and his claims about Trump. People say a lot of things, and then when they're under oath, their stories change significantly. So I'd always be cautious to compare statements made under oath to something that some guy might have just said in a letter or said to the press or said to a friend.
Who's Rosenstein?
I think this was sent to the Federal Election Commission.
Maybe, yeah.
That's what it says. Via email, Federal Election Commission, Office of Complaints, Examination, and Legal Administration. Attention, Crystal Dennis. And the letter says that Cohen did it of his own volition. He paid for it out of pocket. He was never reimbursed. So I would put it this way. It seems political when you have a letter like this from years ago, from 5 years ago.
I can't get over the fact that he keeps saying this is wrong because the indictment of a ex-president is political. We're really back. We're really back. We're new game plussing Gamergate. We're back in action.
And but again, fair point. We'll see what happens. My issue with it for the most part is really falsified record misdemeanor charge. You want to get into the debate about Barack Obama blowing up a kid? Because I would absolutely love to talk about that. Look, if they want to give Trump,
I mean, that might have been some of the most blatant whataboutism I've ever seen, and it wasn't even about a sitting president. Like, there's a currently sitting Democrat president, and you couldn't think of anything... Oh, Spider. You couldn't think of anything Biden's done that would warrant, like, that instead? Like, you're like, yeah, Obama. Defend Obama now. Obama hasn't been president for a very long time. I'm too high to even count right now because I'd probably get it wrong and embarrass myself.
Trump a misdemeanor charge and lock him up for however many months a misdemeanor gets him, I would absolutely be willing to make that to agree. You're right. He's got to be charged. Next up, Obama. He blew up a kid. He blew up a bunch of kids.
I don't know if Obama broke a law.
I don't think Americans of any capacity are allowed to kill other Americans.
Of any capacity? Don't cops do it all the time?
Not like.
I mean, it seems like they in the service.
You guys have to remember, conservatism is inherently contradictory. There is no actual ideology there. It's just a set of endgame goals to reach and win by any means necessary. So they'll just say what it will sound best to the audience in a given moment, and then if you know what to do, and Destiny does know what to do here, it isn't generally that hard to say, wait, but don't you agree, don't you have the exact different opposite philosophy on this other issue? What's the one through line, Tim? That Trump is good and the cops can kill, Americans can kill other Americans as long as it's the cops killing a black person? Is that the only consistent through line? Is racism, Tim? Tim, you okay? Tim?
That's a little bit of a semantic trick you played there, right?
Okay.
Come on. Obviously, you can kill people in self-defense, but Obama bombed a civilian restaurant in Yemen, a country we're not at war with, killing civilians, including a 16-year-old American citizen. You can't, if you're in the military,
did Obama drive?
You can't just, or a cop, you can't just go and kill somebody.
Murder.
I'm not going to get that semantic.
Yeah, but I imagine the justification Obama would use was that this was in defense of U.S. interests or defense of the United States. And in his role as commander-in-chief, the president of the United States has offered wide deference from the Supreme Court for taking actions in the commission of protecting the United States, even if we disagree with them.
Yeah, I think that's criminal. I mean,
well, that's fine, but there's a different question of is it illegal versus do you think it's criminal bad, right? It's probably bad, I guess, but
So the Obama administration's argument was that they were
Well, that's the thing, though, right? So many of these conservatives will act insert war hawkish Democrat president should go to jail if you think insert war crime committing, overtly war crime committing Republican president should go to prison. And it's well, Democrats can be war hawkish, and yeah, lots of civilians die, and that's shitty. But it's not illegal. They wouldn't go, they're not going to get locked up in American jail for that. It's morally wrong, but not legally wrong. That's, if anything, that's not how it works.
Trying to target a terrorist leader. But I'm not, I mean, you make a fair point, but I'd be willing to argue that the president does not have the authority to bomb countries we are not at war with.
Well, what about when Trump assassinated Soleimani? That was an assassination.
Where was that taking place in?
In Iraq.
In Iraq,
yeah.
A country we have an AUMF over. An authorization for use of military force.
I don't think the authorization for use of military force, I'm pretty sure we were on good terms with Iraq at that point. I don't know if we had the ability to do whatever we wanted in that country. That was a political assassination, though.
But
our executive order.
We did a political assassination that, ended a period of tenuous chill. Did we not? Was that not a period of tenuous vibing for all intents and purposes up until Trump had Soleimani assassinated with the airstrike on that I think it was an airfield, right? Was it an airfield? I remember it's been a while since this happened. It's been 4 years maybe a little bit longer. But I remember it being an airfield that was struck. Airport, yeah. I remember there being runways and buildings that looked that's the kind of shit where planes land. Yeah, I don't... There's just no consistency. It's just Trump good, Democrats bad.
That are against the United States.
And I don't disagree.
Sure, but I'm just saying that in general, there's multiple questions going on here. We can say, do we think it's wrong or bad? Probably, I think generally the United States president killing American citizens is generally a bad thing, unless there's really good justification for it. But there's a difference between that versus is it illegal? And I think that the law tends to, we argued about this a little bit before the show, when Trump was doing things at the border that we thought, when I say we progressives and the left got really mad at, the Supreme Court tended to side with him because the president is given wide deference over matters of
what was he doing
national
on the
security.
border?
I think it was when he was using, he couldn't get the funding for the border wall. No. It was over banning certain people coming into the country. When he named there were 7 Muslim majority countries, and when he was running for president, even Giuliani said he's trying to find ways to do a Muslim majority ban. Technically, he's not allowed to do that.
Venezuela and North Korea were on that list, though.
Yeah, well, he changed it up, I think, after the first one got...
Yeah, that was one that was like, obviously you can already see like a taste of the defense of it from Tim Pool, but like literally Trump did a Muslim ban, but because it was so racist and evident what he was doing, it got blocked. So Trump had to add a few more countries to it that weren't Muslim majority, and then it passed. And then everyone was like, wait, this is the Muslim ban passed that he was trying to do. This is the Muslim ban he was trying to do. Like, it passed. And they were like, you fucking idiots, Muslim ban. It's not a Muslim ban. There were countries that are not Muslim majority on that list. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess the original draft was not just all, like, Muslim majority countries.
Or didn't go through for whatever reason. But once he did that ban, when people tried to challenge...
No, because, well, okay. The reasons why conservatives are racist towards Muslims are not, it's not a religion thing. For the most part, like, values of like conservative traditional Islam are not very incongruous with what most conservatives believe. It's the fact that most people that immigrate to America who are Muslim or brown, that's what they have a problem with. They think that Muslims coming to America are brown and scary. That's the thing they want to ban.
It. The Supreme Court basically said, president, border, he can do almost anything he wants because it's the president of the border.
Yeah, but that's not blowing up a kid.
I didn't say it was blowing up a kid, but no, I'm saying that in general, you would think that, like, well, if we're talking like border, if we're talking about like passing policy at the border, that seems like a congressional thing. Like, we should be passing laws about immigration policy, but the president can do that basically all on his own because the Supreme Court's like, hey, he's a president, national security, he can do almost whatever he wants.
I think I see the disconnect. I'm less concerned with legality.
Okay, I'm only talking legalities.
Right. So I think that a president who bombs a country we're not at war with should be stripped of his power and criminally charged for killing an American citizen. And it should be literally under the U.S. murder statutes that are covered by multiple state and federal laws. I don't look at it like, well, you know.
Is a murder statute, could I, in Tennessee, get arrested if I bomb somebody in Yemen? Is that a, I don't know what the.
I mean, that's a good point. You might, yeah, absolutely. Okay. I mean, that might be like way worse than murder. It might be terroristic, international. There might, like, I'm pretty sure if you, as an American citizen, set off a bomb in a foreign country, you'd be criminally charged in the U.S.
Yeah, but I don't know if it'd be under state statutes, right? That sounds like some
federal,
international, federal. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Julian Assange is being criminally charged in the U.S., even though he's not a U.S. citizen who didn't do anything in the United States. Kim.com, for that matter, too. I mean, the dude's never even was never this country, and they went after him. So
I just think that I think it's really important that we separate conversations of what should somebody be charged with versus, like, what do we think is wrong. And I think both conversations are important. We could talk about, like, is this wrong or is it not wrong? And there's probably a good conversation to be had there. But there's a difference between that versus, like, somebody needs to be charged here. Because, like, well, charged with what? Is there actually a crime broken, or is it just like we're really upset about this particular thing, which is fair?
Yeah, I think the Patriot Act's insane, and the National Defense Authorization Act.
Wait, I didn't even notice. How did I not notice? Am I so high that I didn't notice fucking Moonlord is here? Can we get some hypers in chat for Moonlord? Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Moonlord is here. Let's fucking go. This is what we needed.
Act insane. It gives them the, it really gives the president the authority to bomb an American citizen anywhere in the United States.
It doesn't. It gives them the right to rendition anyone, anywhere in the world, and then hold secret tribunals. And I think that's wrong. And I think if we're going to just play like the question of is it legal, well, then there's a whole lot of really awful stuff the government's going to end up doing if we just say, well, they made it legal so they can do it. But they
but this is what I always fight against, like when it comes to like BLM and everything too. It's important to change the laws. If we want people to be held accountable, we have to change the laws to reflect what we think our moral will is so that we can actually get people to be held accountable. Because otherwise you just get a bunch of people that are like, this is wrong, do something. It's like, okay, well, I don't know, what do you want us to do? Like, it's not illegal, like we can't do anything about it, you know?
If we changed the law and it made it illegal to bomb kids in Yemen, then we wouldn't be able to charge people that were doing it while it was legal, because it was legal when they did it.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, do we want to make it so that when we change laws, we can retroactively?
No,
right?
I don't. Anyway,
like I don't think we were ever officially at war with Syria, right?
No.
But Trump bombed the airport. Is that like? But again, he's the president. It's our military. Like,
I guess the other question
he's the
is,
commander in chief.
You know, in talking about.
And like, unironically though, if we're talking about the like philosophy of America and what the president is supposed to do by the intent of the founding fathers, which is of course like very outdated, but like if you want to get really pedantic about like what the founding fathers intended, as if that matters, yeah, Trump would be in his right to do that. The president is the commander in chief. They are able to, within certain boundaries, like lead our country into conflict. That like if it is necessary, that there are provisions set in place to allow a president to do that if necessary. There are even provisions in place to like delay elections during wartime. So yeah, I mean, legally, bombing that airport was not illegal, I don't think, by American standards, but maybe on an international scale it was.
Abdulrahman al-Awlaki, he wasn't
certainly
the intended target. The intended target was somebody else. And he had just a few weeks prior killed Anwar al-Awlaki, Abdulrahman's dad. So he kills this guy who's an American citizen, then argues, well, look, you know, he was a jihadi. He was preaching against the United States. He had to be stopped. But then a few weeks later, he targets a civilian restaurant in Yemen, blows up this restaurant with a drone strike, killing Anwar al-Awlaki's son, Abdulrahman. And the response was, well, we were targeting a terror leader, so it's okay. So I guess the question is, I'm curious as to the legalities.
I so badly wanted to try to get onto Tim Pool's show while I had COVID. Because, like, I'm pretty sure they've all said they haven't gotten vaccinated and everything. So I was just gonna, you know, they don't believe COVID's a big deal. They wouldn't have a problem with it, I'm sure. Maybe they would after I was sitting there with them, and then I waited for a while before I announced, oh yeah, by the way, I've had COVID this entire time. I have COVID. I have it bad, you know, like, and then just start coughing really hard. Zan, no, you can't say this is a crime. It's a meme. It's a meme. Zan casually endorsing bioterrorism. Don't call the DUP on me.
And the moral standing of, one, does the president have the legal authority to kill anyone in any country?
To be fair, I'm pretty sure it's not bioterrorism if you're willingly, like, fine with being infected by it, right? Because the conservatives don't believe it's real. I'm pretty sure, like, I could have been, like, fully infected with COVID, and a lot of these conservatives be like, no, breathe on me. I'm not vaccinated. Breathe on me. I won't get sick. It ain't even real. The COVID vaccines would actually made you sick. I never got vaccinated, so I'm gonna be fine. You go ahead and cough in my face. Like that's not really like a bio crime if she's like, no, go ahead and do it. Like, is it? I've heard many Floridian women who sound exactly like how I'm talking right now, by the way. That is a good impression. Yeah, bug chasers.
At any time in the eyes of the United States. If he does and hits the wrong target and kills an innocent American citizen, is there a manslaughter similar charge for this kind of conflict?
I think internationally, unfortunately, I think we just don't tend to hold countries responsible. This has happened
kind of
multiple times. I'll avoid the USS Liberty example because that's a whole loaded thing. But there was, let's see, I think Iran. After we killed Soleimani, in the night or the night after that followed, Iran accidentally shot down, I think, one of their own civilian airliners. And there were no charges. Nothing was held for that. I believe...
In Iran?
In Iran, yeah.
I mean, they're like authoritarian, though, you know?
True. No, I'm just saying, but internationally, I believe it happened over Ukraine as well. I think that there was a missile launched from Crimea, I believe. That was probably with the assistance of Russian troops. There was a civilian airliner shot down there.
Was that the one that landed in Finland? Like, I remember there was something about, or am I mixing that up with something else? I remember there was like a situation where like Ukraine made an oopsie and accidentally shot down like a civilian airliner from like Finland or some shit like that because they flew over like anticipated to be invaded airspace. I may be confusing stories, though.
That nothing happened. The United States, I believe, I think we shot down a civilian plane that killed like over 150 or over 200 people. That might have been south of Iran, I think, flying towards Saudi Arabia maybe, and we didn't do anything about that. We said sorry, but I think that was like 200 or so civilians dead. I mean, it happens, it sucks, but I mean, precedent internationally is that like sometimes mistakes happen, countries do mistakes, they're bad, and you pay money sometimes, but there's usually not like criminal courts for those types of mistakes. Now that it was proven, then yeah, of course, we say, but
the best I could do on short notice, the ACLU wrote an article saying that it was unlawful.
Well, if the ACLU said it.
No, I mean, yeah, it's
when they said which was
career
unlawful.
over.
The not just the killing of Abdulrahman al-Awlaki, but the other civilians that were killed in these countries we're not at war with was. It says the killing program isn't only unlawful, it's unwise, and that's about, you know, on the short term. There have been legal arguments made that Obama does have the right to kill Americans abroad, but I kind of feel like, you know, we've got multiple amendments that afford American citizens a plethora of rights before they can just kill you. So that's where I'm at on the issue, I suppose.
Do you still have American?
I like how it's so evident how much of a rhetorician, that Tim Pool is, and he may be stupid and he may be a piece of shit, but he is a rhetorician. Because everything he says is specifically crafted to appeal to an audience. Like, oh, you know, I just think that American officials shouldn't be able to kill American citizens, but that's just my position on the issue. It's okay if you disagree. Like, that's like the kind of thing I would say to a conservative when I'm, you know, trying to do a gotcha. Like, that's so clearly like, oh, you're just trying to appeal to the audience by indicating that you have moral superiority without outright stating you have moral superiority, because stating you have moral superiority comes off as cringe in a debate, so you just have to make it evident to the audience without saying it, which is hard to pull off. Little bit of a debate tip
Rights
for you
when you're in
guys.
another country.
You still pay taxes, so yes, you do.
And if
the State Department will send guys to rescue you if you're kidnapped.
Maybe.
This is the first I've heard of the USS Liberty that you mentioned earlier.
Oh, God, no, don't even do it.
1967, during the Israeli Six-Day War, they accidentally torpedoed, or they shot down a...
Yeah, but depending on who you ask, it's not an accident. That's like a whole can of worms of weird Jewish stuff.
Let's jump to this next story.
Destiny?
From timcast.com, quote, political persecution, election interference at the highest level in history. Trump responds to indictment, will reportedly surrender early next week. Never before in our nation's history has this been done. The statement from Trump, let's pull it up, let's read it. Here we go, if I can. Text is kind of small. He writes, this is political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history. From the time I came down the golden escalator at Trump Tower, and even before I was sworn in as your president of the United States, the radical left Democrats, the enemy of hardworking men and women of this country, have been engaged in a witch hunt to destroy the Make America Great Again movement. You remember it just like I do. Russia, 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 the Mueller hoax, Ukraine, 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 impeachment hoax 1, impeachment hoax 2, the illegal and unconstitutional Mar-a-Lago raid, and now this. The Democrats have lied, cheated, and...
It's... The insane thing is that all of these things overwhelmingly turned up scandalous shit about Trump. He's just listing things that if you Googled it, it would be like, this is a scandal in which the FBI found this much illegal shit that Trump did. He somehow got off the hook. That's why they call him Teflon Don. Like, I that's literally what you would find if you Googled these scandals and looked into them.
Stolen in their obsession with trying to get Trump. But now they've done the unthinkable, indicting a completely innocent person in an act of blatant election interference. Never before in our nation's history has this been done. The Democrats have cheated countless times over the decades, including spying on my campaign, but weaponizing our justice system to punish a political opponent who just so happens to be a president of the United States. And by far, the leading Republican candidate for president has never happened before, ever. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, who was handpicked and funded by George Soros, is a disgrace. Rather than stopping the unprecedented crime wave taking over New York City, he's doing Joe Biden's dirty work, ignoring the murders and burglaries and assaults he should be focused on. This is how Bragg spends his time. I believe this witch hunt will backfire massively on Joe Biden. The American people realize exactly what the radical left Democrats are doing here. Everyone can see it. So our movement and our party, united and strong, will first defeat Alvin Bragg, and then we will defeat Joe Biden. And we are going to throw every last one of these crooked Democrats out of office so we can make America great again.
So what he just described there is fascism, like doing a coup, essentially. Like he was basically encouraging another January 6th there, without saying outright do another January 6th. That would at least be my read of it if I were a Trump supporter. I don't know how anyone could read anything else from that, frankly, but I'm sure Tim Pool will try to argue otherwise.
Well, very interesting. What do you think?
They better be doing a really good job at that office. I think there's a lot of political consideration that has to go into these charges because it's a really scary world when your criminal justice system is potentially interfering with an election, which is something that, despite what some Americans think, that's all of our intelligence agencies try really hard to avoid this exact scenario where you might be indicting or arresting or charging with crimes like somebody that could be running for president. So I hope that whatever they have, I hope when these indictments are unsealed, some really solid stuff, and it's not just a whole bunch of like, Lucy, whatever, that ends up falling apart.
What do you think about, he mentions Ukraine. What do you do you remember the whole Ukraine gate fiasco impeachment? Donald Trump quid pro quo.
Yep, I do remember that. Yeah, what about it?
What are your thoughts?
Am I allowed to say the F word?
After 15 seconds, yeah.
I mean, we try to keep it family friendly.
In the first 15 seconds, they demonetize.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm
Yeah, that is how it works. If you say any swear words in the first, like, I play it safe with like a minute to 3 minutes, ideally, in the first 3 minutes, last 3 minutes of a video. That's what YouTube scans the heaviest, looking for anything that could be like non-monetizer friendly, non-advertiser friendly for monetization.
I'm okay with that impeachment, if that's what you're asking. Yeah.
You think Trump committed a crime with...
Absolutely.
You want to elaborate? I know it might be it's been a long time.
It's been a while, but my understanding was that Trump contacted Ukraine, Zelensky, and he was asking if there was wrongdoing done by, I think it was by Biden in finding that prosecutor, and if they had any information about potential wrongdoings that Hunter Biden or Joe Biden had been involved in Ukraine. And in exchange for that, he wanted to withhold aid that was already congressionally approved to Ukraine for that.
So what's wrong with that? Like, why is that was it a problem?
Legally or morally, or
both, either, whatever you think.
Legally, I believe it's because I don't think the president has the authority to withhold that aid. I don't remember what the legal arguments for on that. For the moral part is our president
an entire
probably
nation.
Shouldn't be asking other countries to investigate like wrong.
Like, okay, the reason why it's morally wrong is because it was the president of our country blackmailing aid to another nation that is being invaded by our enemy on the grounds that we only help them, and the president would be making this decision extra legally, that we only help them if they are willing to do literal election interference, which that actually is when another country like investigates or tries to like dig up information to change the outcome of the election. That is election interference.
Wrongdoings of political opponents. That's a really
But Joe
scary
Biden
world.
wasn't running for office at the time.
I mean, then why was he? Hold on, I'm trying to think of the timeline for this.
Yeah, Joe Biden. It was a year before he announced. That was part of the controversy, that Joe Biden had not announced he was running for office at all.
No, but hold on. He might not have announced it, but like, I'm pretty sure most people knew he was running. Like in the early polls, like if you looked at Real Clear Progress, if you looked at a lot of the polling aggregate sites, like they were already polling Biden. He'd already been factored in quite a while. He might have announced that he was going to run for office, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people were expecting it.
I mean, that's just speculative media stuff. So Trump isn't actively investigating a political opponent, unless the argument is we all secretly knew that was going to be the case. They were like Bernie Sanders was still in the race. There were a bunch of other people. At the time, the controversy was like, why Joe Biden? There were other Democrats that were actually talking about running, and it wasn't Joe Biden. He announced late.
He did announce late, but he was still factored into the polls really early because like a lot of people thought he was going to run. The question is, though, do we want the president contacting other, even if he's not running, he is still a type of political opponent.
What if the vice president did the same thing? Is that
if the vice president was? I think that anytime you're reaching out, like let's ask, if we pull back on a macro level, why is Trump asking this information? Does he genuinely think that there's been some grave wrongdoing done by the Bidens that needs to be corrected for?
Yeah.
And if so, why isn't he asking our intelligence agencies for information about this? Why is he going to another country and asking?
I mean, we have the Five Eyes Spy Club. We do that all the time.
We don't do that all the time. Going to another leader and saying, "Hey, I need you to get dirt on a potential political opponent," because I think there's something.
He wasn't a political opponent. And
he did.
Yes, he was.
Even if he was the vice president of the former opposite party guy that he just.
Joe Biden has been like a high-ranking figure in the Democratic Party for years. he's not exactly synonymous with the Democratic Party, or he is now, but not back then. But he was still like asking for dirt on him. Everybody knew that he was going to be running. Everybody was pretty sure he was going to be running. It was very obvious why Trump was asking for dirt, was to help his ability to harm Biden's reputation in the election if they could find anything.
As he came into office, what do you mean? He's some kind of political opponent, right? I mean, even if he wasn't directly running yet, like I would argue, if he was asking this for like AOC, for instance, I would say that it's similar.
Trump didn't go to the president of Ukraine and say, "I got this political opponent I need dirt on." He said, "What's up with this video of Joe Biden threatening to withhold congressionally approved aid unless you take action on his behalf?"
So curious out of his own.
And the president of Ukraine was like, "I'm not sure." He goes, "Well, can you look into that? I want to know what that's about."
It wasn't just, can you look into that? It was, if you don't find what I need, I might withhold aid that's already been congressionally approved for you. And that was the issue. If he was just asking questions, we wouldn't be having the conversation. He would have been impeached, right?
So this is the point that I'm getting at. When this started and Donald Trump asked...
All conservatives are this dishonest. Know this whenever you are like preparing to like deal with one of these people. They will lie about anything. You have to be equipped to call out the lies when they use these individual anecdote stories to try to make an argument for some broader political narrative.
About this specifically because there was a viral video of Joe Biden outright admitting
Tim Pool's just pivoting around everywhere.
Congressionally approved aid unless a prosecutor got fired. You had Joe Biden breaking the law.
Sure. So there was a video of Joe Biden on stage making the claim/joke on stage where he's saying, "I told him, you don't do it, you're not going to blah, 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 blah." Joke. But in terms of him, but in terms of there actually being a serious offer on the table where he was like threatening to withhold aid, I'm not even sure if that was ever the case. We have that one statement that he was made publicly. Number one,
signed a sworn affidavit that it's what happened.
Sure. Number one. Number two, the impetus for Shokin being removed from Ukraine was not to get some kind of political dirt on an opponent. It was a completely different scenario. This is a prosecutor that all of Europe and over half of Ukraine wanted fired, that the United States was acting on behalf of the Western world and trying to pressure this prosecutor out because of his lack of prosecuting corruption in the country. That's a totally different thing than I threatened to withhold aid from this guy because he's not giving me dirt on potential political opponents.
So why is it that the guy who was being investigated, Mykola Zlochevsky...
Tim Pool's got like a million different stories that like kind of relate to the thing that they're talking about memorized, where he can kind of try to draw a comparison and call out some hypocrisy that he thinks his audience will perceive in the left. But Destiny knows a lot about these random fucking stories and these random scandals and these random controversies the right has like levied at the Democrats, and is pretty decent at shooting them down. This is pretty good. He's doing well.
He returned to the country. He had fled when Shokin was investigating him. And then after Joe Biden got Shokin removed, Zlochevsky returned to the country to begin working on Burisma again.
Why did he return to the country?
Well,
it could have been for any number of reasons. I'm not sure.
Right. So the argument from the Democrats, the specific corruption that wasn't being prosecuted, you're referring to, is the prosecution of Mykola Zlochevsky, the founder of Burisma.
Okay.
And the argument they made was he wasn't investigating him. That was the problem. And then Joe Biden says, and we got him out, and then they put in someone solid. The only issue is, when Shokin had about a dozen active investigations into Burisma and Zlochevsky fled the country. They froze his account. When Biden came in and got the prosecutor fired, Zlochevsky safely returned to Ukraine without fear of criminal prosecution. When Donald Trump made that phone call, Zlochevsky fled again. So it sounds more like, you've got Hunter Biden on the board of Burisma, you got a former CIA director on the board of Burisma, and Zlochevsky, the founder. And Shokin had 12 different active, around 12 to 14.
All of the investigations into Burisma were dead.
No, they weren't. That's not true.
It was
wrong.
Absolutely true.
Completely false.
They were only revived 1 month before Shokin was forced out. Every single one of those probes was completely dead.
That's wrong.
You can Google it and look for it if you want.
So I'm citing Matt Taibbi.
God.
Right. And if you
Of course he is.
You don't want to trust a journalist or whatever.
Or like any actual like article, not a tweet. Like any
I'm not talking about
actual...
a tweet. I'm talking about an article that he wrote breaking down what happened with Ukraine and his investigation into Zlochevsky. And this is from like 2017.
Okay, so your claim is that the probes into Burisma never went cold and never...
Matt Taibbi is mostly known for his Twitter posts, but doesn't he write for like self-publishing? Twitter file. He's the Twitter files cunt. He's the Twitter files guy that got blown the fuck out. Oh, I had to scroll nearly all the way down to find it. He was the guy who got blown the fuck out. On what was it, CNN? Or no, it was ABC. We watched the clip of it the other day, where he was the guy who deliberately hid the fact that what the Biden campaign had asked Twitter to take down of Hunter Biden wasn't like something that like made it out to be like Biden, like some scandalous thing that would have made Biden out to be like a traitor to America or something. It was literally revenge porn. Like there were nudes of Hunter Biden, which is illegal, and anybody can request Twitter take down revenge porn of you. And he was like, and the guy was like, why did you not bring up that this is what the campaign asked to have taken down was against Twitter's TOS, and this is something that's completely legal and anyone can do it. And it was like illegal material that was revealed with the Twitter files. Why didn't you mention it? Okay, yeah. So yeah, that was Matt Taibbi. Okay, I remember. Yeah, that guy's a piece of shit. I don't trust him.
Died that they were active the entire time.
They were active the entire time, right?
Okay. My understanding is that those probes were all cold and all dead, and it was part of the reason
hold on. You
why
said dead before, now you're saying cold.
It's the same thing. They were being actively worked on. So there were probes, but nobody was doing anything with them until it was 1 month before Shokin was actually ousted that there was some progress started to be made on those.
So that's a very difficult question to get into. The fact is, there were active investigations.
Well, but that's kind of the meat of what we're talking about, right? Well, so it's kind of important to settle the fact of the matter on that. Yeah.
Were there 12 investigations? Yes or no?
I know that there were investigations open for a couple of years, but my understanding is they were open. It's not all that matters. They were dead investigations. There wasn't any progress being made on it. That's what I read that was reported.
Right. My point is this.
But that's pretty important because if they were being actively investigated, then that obviously changes a little bit the story that we're telling.
So
right?
Did Shokin have investigations into Burisma and Zlochevsky? Yes, he had about a dozen.
But whether or not investigation is live or dead, isn't that important? You don't think so?
Did Zlochevsky flee the country while these were on the books? Yes, he did.
I'm not
when
sure.
When Shokin was removed and the investigations were officially stricken, Zlochevsky returns.
So do you think that there are criminal wrongdoings that he's done that he's not being prosecuted for?
What I think is that the United States is in an energy crisis, in a war with Eastern powers. The United States has been trying to get a pipeline for natural gas called the Qatar-Turkey pipeline into Europe, but Syria said no. Syria destabilizes.
Okay. Is that a way some people say Qatar? Because I always pronounce it Qatar. Some people say Qatar. Or am I mistaking because I've heard people pronounce Qatar that way. Is that how Tim Pool pronounces it? Is that how it's supposed to be pronounced? I'm pretty sure it's the appropriate way. Okay, I was asking because I was gonna follow it up by, is that how it's supposed to be pronounced? I'm glad now I know how to pronounce it, I suppose. If I ever go to Qatar, I will be I won't embarrass myself by pronouncing the name of the country wrong.
For whatever reason, we want to run that pipeline through Syria, through Turkey, into Europe to offset the Gazprom gas monopoly. Russia runs natural gas into Europe through Ukraine, through Gazprom. It's about 20%. It's massively powerful for them and it allows them to control prices. The United States has interests in setting up an energy company to offset that monopoly, hence Burisma. Hunter Biden's on the board, probably for these reasons. A former CIA director, probably for these reasons.
Wasn't Burisma one of the smaller gas companies in that country?
Absolutely. And it seems like the U.S. was trying to compete with Russia to get cheaper gas to Europe. And the argument made was that Europe was constrained by high gas prices from Russia and that we wanted the European economy to be bolstered and grow faster to compete with China, but Russia was basically keeping us pinned down.
Sure. This is nice conjecture, but is there anything backing up any of this aside from
This is all the official reporting.
What do you mean by official
Matt
reporting?
So
the official reporting that we got rid of Shokin because we wanted to bolster U.S. interests.
Remember, I don't know a whole lot about the particular example that Tim Pool is using right now, so my ability to respond to it is limited. But I can say this. The guy that he's referencing right now as the source from this is Matt Taibbi, the guy who got destroyed for his dishonest presentation of the supposed Democrat scandal that was supposed to be revealed with the Twitter files that was not so much a Democrat scandal. Didn't really do anything.
The only speculation I have. I'm saying based on the facts, it seems to me the issue was Shokin did have investigations into Burisma, which was a problem for U.S. interests, not because of corruption, but because it's more of a war front. It's more of a.
Do you think that Shokin was a corrupt prosecutor?
No.
Okay. Why did all of Europe and a lot of Ukraine hate him?
Because Europe wants cheap gas. Shokin was impeding that. It's not an issue of corruption. It's an issue of conflicting interests.
He was impeding it how?
So active investigations into Burisma are impeding U.S. interests in competing with Gazprom.
Burisma isn't even the largest gas player in that country, though.
That's not the point. We don't have the Qatar-Turkey pipeline into Ukraine because Syria blocked it. So you have a multi-front effort going back to, I think, like the 2000s to get cheaper natural gas into Europe. So of course they're not going to like anybody who's got Eastern allegiances. It's possible that with Ukraine you had
thank you, Victoria
in the
Salami.
eastern part of the country more pro-Russia sentiment. With Yanukovych you had more pro-Russia sentiment, and you had government officials that were like, look, we are not just pro-West. Of course, then he gets ousted. There's unrest. I can't remember.
What do you mean for Yanukovych, though? Yanukovych was standing alone with that pro-Russian status, though. That wasn't all the government officials. That was part of the reasons why people were so upset with Yanukovych was because he was trying to push for Russia in opposition to what their parliament was even pushing for.
That's what I'm saying. And so there's probably, he wasn't the only person. The sentiment was fairly split, but was leaning towards the EU.
Had been voted on by their parliament, to favor the EU. That was what the vote was for.
And so the way I see it is there are probably elements of that government that were more favorable to Russia, which is why Europe doesn't like them. The people, Ukrainians who want to be a part of the EU and members of the EU who want Ukraine to join because they want more control over natural gas, of course, naturally would oppose anybody who was siding with Russia.
Do you think that Ukraine was a corrupt country prior to 2014?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Do you think so? That's for all of Europe and for everybody complaining about the corruption and stuff.
We're gonna be going way and well into the age of conservatives hardcore dick riding and making excuses for Russia again. It's kind of cool. It kind of had cooled down for a while, but there was this idea that if Hillary won the election over Trump, that she was such a war hawk that she would get us into war with Russia in a month because the Democrats I guess hate Russia for no reason from the perspective of the Republicans back then and all the other conservatives and even centrists that would try to argue against voting for Hillary. And it's hilarious to me because it's this idea that Russia is our friend and the Democrats are the ones that are initiating hostilities with them, I guess is the implication. That's the vibe that I get from all of the conservative content that I see. It's Russia's not that bad. Russia's actually good. It's the Democrats that are bad, and the Democrats are the ones that provoke Russia. They defend Russia's right to invade Ukraine. They defend Russia's right to interfere in our elections or deny that they did it outright, but if they did do it, then they were justified. They'll make excuses for Russia at every turn. And most of them are not bought out Russian assets. It's just that the people, the content they're consuming from are.
Relating to Shokin, you think that all of that was BS and they just didn't like him because he was preventing their cheap oil or cheap gas?
Queenslander.
Say that one more time.
You think that all of the upsetness that people across Europe and Ukraine had with Shokin had nothing to do with any of the corruption of the country or his lack of pressuring? Because that's the official story that's given, and it seems to be pretty consistent throughout
I can only speak on a surface level about this one particular issue because I don't know the inner workings of all of Ukrainian politics.
Okay.
But what I do know is there has been a tremendous effort by Western forces leading to outright physical military conflict to get natural gas into Europe to offset Russia's control of gas prices. Naturally, it seems like these things are related. Speculative. The facts are the U.S. went to Syria and said, can we build the Qatar-Turkey pipeline? Syria literally said to the United States, that would be bad for our ally, Russia, so we will not allow it. Fortunately for us, for whatever reason, Syria falls into civil war, and we just happen to oppose the guy who denied that. I don't think the whole reason for opposing it has to do with gas, but it's convenient for us nonetheless. We weren't able to do it, and to make it worse, Iran wanted to tap the same natural gas field and send the gas through.
You got a good point there, Sophie. Putin and Russia currently are very anti-LGBT and anti-woke, quote unquote. So you will see a lot of conservatives that they'll make these videos that are dick riding Russia as our enemy. Fortunately, did I accidentally say fortunately? I think I meant unfortunately. They will dick ride Russia as our enemy. It'll be Americans posting Russian propaganda, like war propaganda, saying, "Oh yeah, I can't wait for the Russians to kick our military's ass because our military went woke." And it's like, is this like anti-woke, anti-patriotism from a patriotic conservative? Like, they're literally willing to just sacrifice all of their values if it upsets the left, I guess.
Through Iraq and Turkey into Europe to strengthen Russia's control of energy. So the argument was the EU is trying to grow and become a unified bloc to compete with the growth of China, and Russia was basically impeding us because Russia wants to be their own big dog, right?
Sure. Man, if you ever wanted to revisit a detailed breakdown of this, it'd be interesting to do a little bit of reading prior to this. But let's say hypothetically I grant you all of that. Why didn't Trump say any of that?
Trump doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Okay, so then Trump's investigation into the impetus for this whole
video
conversation.
On the internet, bro.
Okay, so the impetus for this whole conversation of like Trump pressuring them to find out if any
Trump
wrongdoings
just
happened
has no
nothing to do with
idea.
anything that you just laid.
Like the thing that conservatives try really hard to rely on in this issue is the idea that Trump is so rich and so powerful that he's too above doing crime himself. So he just has a bunch of people doing the crime for him to keep his name clear. So you can't actually like criminally like go after Trump because technically he's not doing it. He's hired a bunch of fixers to take care of it for him. So it's the fixers that need to go down, not Trump. And it's like, that's why Trump got fixers. That's not an excuse. What? That you're just coming up with excuses for it to be legal for Trump to break the law.
Out. It was just having to do with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden.
It had to do with him seeing a video and then seeing people and post memes. Probably, to be completely honest, it was Tucker Carlson.
Sure.
Who said something.
But
like,
it was a little bit more than just asking questions, because if he was just curious, I don't think that the question of aid being withheld would have ever been brought up in that conversation. So clearly there was a little bit. You're saying that Biden wasn't seen as a political opponent at all, but if that was the case, I don't know why Trump would go so far to try to solicit information from the Ukrainian government such that he would withhold aid or threaten to withhold aid in exchange for some information about him.
You know,
seems like a random politician to target. Like, why would he be so dead set on getting information about
he
Biden?
hates the Democrats. They were calling him a Russian spy.
Because he personally hates the Democrats. He had a vendetta out. It was not at all in any way whatsoever to increase his chances of winning the election by trying to find dirt on his political opponents using the help of other world leaders.
I think there's a little bit.
Like,
I think it has to be a little bit more than that. Revenge to throw away, to get impeached.
I mean, you can think that, but I don't even care all that much about the speculation as to why he did it. Right?
Sure.
If you want to argue,
well, I think that's probably one of the most important parts. That is the most important part, is why he did it.
But you have to make assumptions to get to that point.
If he's asking for dirt specifically with respect to a political opponent, I'm making assumptions. I feel like there's a lot more assumptions being made on your end that he was just genuinely interested in what Joe Biden had said and was threatening to withhold aid because he wanted a legitimate investigation into the fire of a prosecutor.
I mean,
I feel like it's pretty legitimate.
What we know is that he said, "What's going on with this video? I want to see some action on this, or else." Right?
I feel like there was a little bit more said than that, but I don't remember because it's been a long time.
Well, I'm trying to paraphrase for the sake of it.
Sure, but I feel like the specific requests he was making for information are probably pretty important. I can look up exactly what the charges are alleged, but it's been a while. But
so I guess the reason I bring it up is not to just debate Trump or whatever, but to ask the question of, should we indict Joe Biden for doing the same thing?
Wait, is that where it ends? Wait, real? That's where the video ends? I imagine that didn't end up going very well for Tim Pool, the rest of the video. Should we indict Biden for doing the same thing? He's yet to establish that Biden did the same thing. It's the same thing if you look at it a certain way, and you only consider the part of it that was completely irrelevant to whether or not the thing that Trump did was a big deal, but okay. Jesus Christ. God, Tim Pool really is one of... I do think that Tim Pool, despite the fact he's not, like... He's very popular, but he's not, like, the most popular conservative figure out there or anything these days. I do still think he's one of the most dangerous, because I think he has staying power. He's a very talented propagandist. He is very... For one, he's extremely wealthy. He's got a lot of money. He can keep his show going for a very long time. He's got an underground skate park in his compound. but he's also very, very good at lying. He's very good at lying. The best lies always contain a hint of the truth, and that is the type of lie that Tim Pool is very good at telling, and that's what I think makes him so dangerous. And I really don't have much else to say about him, frankly. I guess that's all.